The world has so many important problems to solve that I want you to be able to look at the big picture and also care about the relevant, practical, here and now component level. How can we make sense of the next 5 to 10 years of technology innovation while also understanding how things will change for us in 2024? That's why my guest this week is Mellie Chow. Mellie is a seasoned angel investor, entrepreneur, and product innovation executive with 20 plus years of experience spanning various industries, including telecommunications, utilities, banking, healthcare, government, and food. Formerly executive director of competitive intelligence, research, and strategy at a Fortune 50 company. Wow. She now serves as a venture partner for Archangel Axion. Mellie holds a BS in mechanical engineering from the University of Waterloo and an MBA from Kellogg at Northwestern and the School of Business, York University. I cannot wait for this conversation. But first, welcome to this week's episode of Make Sense, a video podcast that simplifies complex issues at the intersection of tech and people. Whether you're totally hyped on AI and ready for the robot takeover, or you want to crawl into a cave after deleting all of your social media accounts, I'm here with my guests to help make sense of what's going on so you can design yourself into the future. My name is Lindsay, the Lady Engineer. I am a pragmatic futurist and human-first technologist, serial entrepreneur, and innovation consultant. If you're new here, subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Let's review Mellie's top 10 consumer technology trends for the next 5 to 10 years. Mellie, how's it going?
Oh, great. I'm really excited to be here and share these top 10 trends for 2024 entitled, you know, um, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, because that's what it feels like. It's like just all coming at us.
Yeah.
And so for the first time, published publicly and available as an open source thought piece. So, like I said, really excited to be here and share some of today's trends.
Cool. Yeah, you get two accolades today. One, you are my 50th episode of Make Sense. So that is so great. Thank you so
Congrats.
much.
That's amazing. Love.
You are also my first Make Sense guest to make a second appearance. You were on Make Sense last summer in 2023.
I know, and we had such a great time. So I was just so glad to be back, and this time presenting something a little more poignant, so and timely.
Cool. Yeah. So before we kick off, I want to make a quick announcement. If you are new to Make Sense, I prepared a list of the top 10 clips from the first 30 episodes. Clip from my talk with Mellie is on that list. Dive into the most insightful clips without having to watch a full episode, saving you some time by visiting lindsayt.com/ms top 10. That's lindsayt.com/ms top 10. That will be in the show notes. To our regular Make Sense listeners, today we're doing an extended crystal ball. What does the future hold? So, reminder, this is where I call out interesting predictions for this year, and the experts, my guests, they tell us their hot take. So, today's episode is dedicated to Mellie's Connected Consumer Trends 2024, titled Trends for Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. We have 10 to get through, so let's make haste. Mellie, number 10. The future of work is spatial and augmented. What is your TLDR?
Well, it's because Web 3.0 and AI, machine learning, including Gen AI, will sort of unlock this 3D web and bring us into the new dimension of work.
Cool. So, my prediction for 2024 is that the job market will continue to bifurcate between companies that go fully remote forever and those that go back to the office. Is this prediction aligned with yours? Is it a step on the roadmap?
Absolutely. It's definitely going to accelerate because of remote work post-pandemic and hybrid work expectations to really start to attract and retain the best talent. This will definitely pull this trend forward. And I think we'll really start to lean into, what Web 3.0, AI, machine learning, inclusive Gen AI is really going to bring us. And so I would say, if you want to visualize what that looks like, just think sort of Minority Report for
Hmm.
organizations.
Okay. Is that what the digital employee experience will look like?
Yeah, I think so. Like I said, think Minority Report with workstations, and work tools like the recent launch of Apple Vision Pro, their mixed reality headset, will sort of usher in this new development kit that will enable what I'm calling the Metaverse HQ for your company, much like we saw Accenture's Metaverse HQ for onboarding, training, upskilling, and continued collaboration for community and networking for those employees during the pandemic. This will likely continue as we lean into the technologies like Web 3.0, AI, machine learning. And think of it as like the intranet or your microsites gone 3D.
Okay, cool. I like that reference. I also like the idea that these 3D spaces can make water cooler talk and informal learning and the sharing and passing down of company cultural values, which, a lot of our younger Gen Z employees really missed out on because they started their career during the pandemic. So that is a very cool step in the right direction. Number 9, Gen AI assistance and bring your own AI abounds.
Yeah,
Give us the takeaway.
yeah, absolutely. Because Gen AI chatbots, or what I like to refer to in the report, custobots, will be the easiest initial sort of form factor for Gen AI value and the future of customer care.
Okay. All right. So, prediction someone made for 2024. Apple is an AI sleeping giant. So in 2024, Apple may release an AI tool akin to ChatGPT, and this launch could significantly impact current models and prompt reconsidering of US regulation, just given Apple's influential position as a consumer device maker.
Yeah, absolutely. I think all the big tech companies pretty have a bet in deep tech when it comes to Gen AI, taking us like with Microsoft and OpenAI, a more open approach. And then you've got, Google with DeepMind and their tools. I think we're yet to kind of see what the Apple rendition of this will be. So it's going to be interesting to kind of watch that unfold. But having said that, like 67% of all enterprises are indicating that they're folding Gen AI into their overall AI strategies. So whether they're leveraging open source, deep tech, big tech tools to fold into their own strategies, definitely we're going to be seeing more and more, like I mentioned, these custobots or Gen AI chatbots, as it's the um, most simple sort of form factor and touch point to the consumer to realize immediate return on value.
Are there any relevant product examples that can help elucidate or bring alive this bring your own AI prediction?
Yeah, I think Microsoft Copilot is probably a great example of that, where they kind of bring Gen AI into like every interface and every product touch point, starting with like Bing and chat, sort of at that intersection. Another great manifestation of this is what we saw at CES earlier this year, which is
Hmm.
essentially a Gen AI um, customer care, chatbot that you can converse with, and it sort of help you with your look and products, like what should I buy for my skincare, and it's like highly personalized with sort of that empathetic feel to it, right? I also think that NLP, natural language processing, just makes it a little easier to interface with, and
Hmm.
improves like, the response accuracy, which just at the end of the day just makes it feel more human and empathetic, hence being like probably the first sort of initial form factor or easiest, most immediate touch point to the customer.
That's super interesting. I hear about L'Oreal a lot. In a recent episode with Cassandra Kane, who is a designer that upcycles leather in Italy, we talked about just in time or made to order custom productization and personalization. And L'Oreal was another example on that list for their makeup. So I am going to have to spend some more time or find someone from L'Oreal to talk to us more about why they're investing so much in technology. And it seems to be pretty cool that, this makeup beauty company, it seems to be leading the way in their class when it comes to digital transformation. All right. So, number 8. Electrification. I need to say that again. Electrification of everything that moves.
Yeah, that's right. Because the future of EVs for mobility is going to be bigger, with larger network of charging, better with more advanced safety features and in-car services, and faster with rapid or wireless charging to address range anxiety and provide consumers with more peace of mind.
Yeah. I drove an electric car for a week while I was in California back in October, and there were a lot of problems, even in a state that has a ton of charging stations. So I know the range anxiety is real. I know that as Tesla has been going through growing pains, that some Tesla car owners aren't too happy with the product anymore. We both live in Philadelphia. There's not enough charging here to make enough people feel confident in buying EVs. So seems like we definitely need to see work here to make everything move. So the prediction for 2024, though, electricity will be in high demand and we're going to feel the strain. So, electricity sales are expected to rise in the US because of the increased demand, not just by electric vehicles, but data centers. AI takes like 5x as much electricity as like a simple kind of algorithm and Google search takes, and the growing adoption of electrified assets like EVs. So in 2024, we should probably anticipate outages and discussions on energy consumption and also optimizing the electrical grid. Is this aligned with, your prediction? Is it a necessary speed bump on the roadmap to the electrification of everything?
Yeah, it's definitely a natural evolution. Like I said, this sort of acceleration into the electrification of everything, there'll definitely be some growing pains, but I think there's also like a second order effect where like electrification actually moves beyond automotive into like where we leverage EVs and longer lasting batteries and all of this innovation will start to affect stationary power storage, like how we think about that, the innovations around that, batteries on device. It'll impact renewables for our electrical grid because of the problems that we're seeing, and all of the problems kind of, culminating at once, right? Some interesting alternatives that we're seeing in this space is like wireless charging and even energy harvesting, right?
Mm-hmm.
So beyond renewables, PowerCast is actually a really interesting a startup innovation solution where they showcased some of their CE devices at CES this year around wireless charging, from like game controllers to like energy harvesting, where you can actually start to generate energy as you're using. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that all of these problems will start to accelerate this innovation in this space, but also be that sort of speed bump that pulls forward the electrification of everything beyond things that move.
Yeah, I posted something on my Instagram recently that I think could help us solve this problem, which is that scientists are figuring out how to derive energy from human stress. And I would be a great battery for for that technology.
Yeah. That's great.
Okay. We're moving at a good pace. So number 7, robots and drones take over everywhere.
Yeah, because the future of logistics, manufacturing, and supply chain will be powered by drone delivery and robots for last mile cost savings, and added access.
Yeah. So my prediction for 2024 is that this is the year where we see drone delivery finally take flight. So most regulatory hurdles have been cleared, and Walmart just announced a partnership to cover 75% of Dallas Fort Worth, Texas by the end of 2024 with drone delivery.
Yeah,
That
I kind of wish I was living in that area so I can experience it and try it for myself. Like, I would love to watch that drone kind of arrive at my house with my package delivered.
Well, it's interesting because, in California, I know that there are rolling delivery robots. I saw
Mhm.
one in Venice that will, deliver food. But I also saw pictures in San Francisco of, you know, up to no gooders up to no good doers, who were like sitting on the robots or who put tape over the sensors so the robot just wouldn't move and stall out. uh, so I agree with you. I would like to see how the drone works in this sense, because if it works, then we might not have the on the ground problems that I just described. So, what are some relevant product examples that, you know, highlight robots and drones taking over everywhere?
Yeah, I think you're seeing them in last mile delivery. That's probably the most immediate application. But also, you'll see it in manufacturing floors, of course, in the automotive industry. You'll see them in kitchens as well, like
Drones inside kitchens?
robotic, like salad makers or
Oh,
things
okay, got it.
that automate the process of food prep.
Got
Um,
it.
but also to combat the labor shortages that we're seeing,
Mhm.
right? This is solving like real problems with access to labor,
Right.
with pandemic as well. So as much as, robots and the drones are coming and, real fear of job loss, it's also solving the immediate problem of our upside down pyramid in terms of birth rates and people retiring,
Mhm.
and just general labor shortages, as locally as well.
It is a reminder that in the US, at least, there's definitely labor shortages around tractor trailer drivers, CDL licensed drivers that move goods around the country. And I also think, as speaking of supply chain, as more companies revert their offshore policy to now nearshore, that meaning that they're creating their products close to where the products need to be delivered, that there is a demand for manufacturing jobs here in the US, which is really interesting since, we both lived through the 90s and 2000s when everything went offshore.
Mhm.
So, number 6, augmentality beyond exoskeletons. Tell me the TLDR on this.
Yeah, this one's harder to kind of wrap your mind around, because it really is speaking to the future of health tech, med tech, and biotech. Um, and it's basically the extension of augmented mental and physical health and wellness.
Hmm.
Gives you this notion of augmentality.
Hmm.
I would think of it as um, superhumans, where like right now healthcare is meant to be diagnostic and solve a pain point or a problem that you're having, a health issue. Um, and the solutions we have today help us feel less disabled. But like,
Mm-hmm.
what if we can take technology in the health tech, med tech, biotech space and help people to feel more able-bodied, like these
Mm-hmm.
human capabilities?
Yeah, so we're looking at a future where instead of centaurs being half human, half horse, we're half human, half robot. Or am I exaggerating?
That is in the very distant future, like just a reflection of our strengths and our
Yes.
best selves magnified.
Yeah. Okay, so relevant 2024 prediction is IoT powered virtual hospitals and telemedicine 2.0 advance significantly. So this trend includes both telemedicine and wearable devices connected to the global network. That's the Internet of Things. They enable remote patient monitoring so we don't have to go to the hospital, communicate data with healthcare professionals, and it'll extend beyond simple remote care like, a Zoom meeting with your therapist to a comprehensive approach known as telemedicine 2.0. Is this aligned? Does this fit in?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I think we're in the wave of diagnostics and telemedicine and smart medical devices that are doing more at home treatment and care and remote monitoring, tracking,
Mm-hmm.
and diagnostics. But if you think even beyond that, is this idea of augmentality. We're not only just taking care of the sick, but we're also enhancing our strengths
Mm-hmm.
and our capabilities. The other thing I love about what just happened this year is, Biden with the ARPA H um, uh, pledge for 100 million for advancing women's health and research. I think that's a huge step forward and recognition that better women's health actually does correlate with economic prosperity.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so refreshing to see like real dollars being invested in this area and focused prioritization around it because it's so typically under invested.
Mm-hmm.
Tech is an area that's highly underfunded traditionally. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's so great to see this new sort of prioritization and funding.
So when I think about augmentality relevant for today is like for those that are deaf that would like to hear, it's like the cochlear implant. Maybe some of the audience has seen, amputees that have hands that they actually the nerves can start to control the fingers. That's like of a robot hand. Are those two examples of this trend of augmentality?
Yeah, absolutely. I think those are definitely more in research. There's a great research study and a partnership for a bionic leg
Mm-hmm.
between the University of Utah, assistant professor by the name of Tommaso Lindsay, partnered with Autobox, and they're trying to make better prosthetics capable of movement that's sort of much closer to that natural leg and knee, and making it just easier to move. FDA approval currently. Another great example is a company that we're that came across my desk in terms of due diligence is Vessel Prosthetics, and their product is called Isoform, and it's basically an adjustable prosthetic socket for like your knee, essentially as well. So I think we're definitely making inroads around that. And we're going to just see more of that as
Mm-hmm.
the hype around augmentality is going to start to get more visibility and more funding around
Yeah.
that.
Now, in a previous episode of Make Sense that came out in January, I tossed out a bunch of predictions that Elon Musk had made over the years to my guest, Chris Rodriguez, to see what he thought. And most of these predictions, all of these predictions, did not come in the time that Elon Musk predicted them to. This prediction was that Neuralink will be in human skulls by 2020. So it's a startup that's developing chips that connect brains to computers. Uh, I think that this fits in line with your prediction, but here's the question that I want to pose to you is that, do you trust big tech companies to update your software in your brain?
That's such an interesting question. Pretty loaded. I would say that, you know, it depends on our alternatives. Um,
Hmm.
and that's why I think the innovation ecosystem is alive and well, because
Hmm.
we don't trust big tech and big banks that have been traditionally too big to fail, right?
Hmm.
With all of our data, particularly personal health records.
And now we're talking about putting something in our bodies.
That's right. That's right. So there's an invasive nature to it, like, post cookies, uh,
Hmm.
like that already. There's like a lot of backlash, and people are, very concerned about privacy and always the debate between creepy and cool. Um,
Hmm.
but like, I don't think that people will generally trust big tech or, large institutions to be the sole keepers of that sort of your personal data and something
Yeah.
that's that close to you.
And as a reminder, I mean, pacemakers have been around for a while, and I'm sure if I did the research that plenty of society had a problem with this idea of putting an electrical device inside to control the heartbeat. And we did it, and people use it, and it's life saving. So we'll get there. And that's why these predictions Mellie's put together are 5 to 10 years out, and we're saying here are the baby steps in 2024 to get there. Okay, so number 5, in-game advertising for added reach.
It's funny that we were talking about sort of the post cookie apocalypse, because the future of entertainment, digital ads, and sort of mass marketing will be in game advertising, because it meets consumers where they are. It's like more immersive, it's more interactive, it can become more contextual and relevant as opposed to intrusive and disruptive. And it gives us an alternative in our post cookie world. And as like FAST, the free advertised streaming TV, or AVODs, advertising video on demand, stream wars heats up. The audience just continues to become more and more fragmented, and reach on traditional TVs that command our time and attention is becoming more and more segmented. Uh,
Mm.
and
Mhm.
so, in light of that, in-game advertising is sort of this perfect median to meet consumers where they are already, um,
Mhm.
and also be a little more targeted and relevant.
Yeah, so in preparing for this episode, I saw that like 50% of adults are gamers. Maybe the audience thinks of the dude that's obsessed with World of Warcraft for 8 hours a day, but that's not what we're talking about to encompass 50% of the US adult population. So my prediction for this year is that brands shift focus to gameplay over visual spectacles. So brands start prioritizing gameplay over visuals, acknowledging that creating, like a visually stunning 3D space doesn't really attract many users if that space doesn't have utility. Huh, what a great insight. Roblox and Fortnite reported that engaging embedded branded experiences by big brands succeed more than visually impressive but less engaging ones.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that because some of the research that I've seen, like gamers would like rewards for devoting their time and attention
Mm-hmm.
for in-game ads, and about 32% of believe that the ads should never interrupt their hardcore game flow. So I
Right.
think there's definitely an opportunity here. And more importantly, I call it advertainment.
Mm-hmm.
Advertising becomes just as much part of the content consumption because it's entertaining. Like
Mm-hmm.
people want to know. It's like the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people tune in just for the commercials. Like I do
100%.
that. It's such a culturally relevant thing
Mm-hmm.
to experience. That type of more relevant, contextual, targeted ads.
Yeah. This reminds me of an early guest I had on Make Sense, Catherine McKee. She's an e-commerce expert. And she talked about, and we were talking about Metaverse for e-commerce. And she pointed out that the retail store Pacific Sun, PacSun, actually does a really great job of their branded experience because you can buy clothes to wear in these virtual worlds, and that has been really successful because it's part of the personalization, customization. Like people love drawing their own avatars and creating their own avatars, and so they just inserted their brand right into this. Do you have any other relevant kind of product examples or experiences that uh, kind of highlight this move
Yeah.
towards in-game advertising?
So Anzu is one of the leaders in in-game advertising, blended in-game advertising. They've had a number of brand examples where they've partnered with game makers and console providers to kind of present these branded experiences that are like I said earlier, immersive, engaging, and like make the gameplay feel more real.
Mm,
So, for example, like Lay's Chips and Anzu and Eskimo partnership with like the blended Lay's chips ads,
mm,
right? You also have like Anzu with Hot Wheels and
mm,
Ask Me. In 2008, Obama had his presidential election campaign in several EA games, like Paradise, Maiden, NBA Live, um,
mhm.
and just to make the game feel more real and poignant at a specific cultural time. Uh,
Interesting.
so people are definitely embracing this type of interaction and maybe even expecting it because, like I said, it makes the game feel more real.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think I'm going to have to find a gaming expert to have on Make Sense. It's episode 50, and I have not had an episode dedicated to gaming yet, and it seems like it is about time. Okay, rounding the corner on the last four predictions. So, number four, AI for planet, sustainability, circularity, and regeneration.
Yeah, because 2024 may end up being like one of the hottest temperatures
Boy,
on Earth, right? Like as 2023 was almost 1.5 degrees Celsius above our pre-industrial levels,
wow.
um, which puts the planet at dangerously close to our climate threshold that we had set previously. So, sustainable tech, clean tech, the green metaverse, leveraging AI will help organizations to achieve more responsible outcomes and closer to their net zero um, pledges, circularity, and even regenerative uh,
Mhm.
to address this our climate emergency.
Yeah. So I did talk about this in a recent episode with Charlie O'Donnell that it is very hard to get pre-seed seed growth capital for climate tech companies. So if a venture capitalist is listening, like this is my plea to do that. And also in my episode with Cassandra Kane, just talking about how, regulation, the government pushing for better sustainability reporting, but the money isn't yet there, right? The financial incentive. So 2024, my prediction, reporting on material sustainability issues in the value chain will be highly challenging. So, really coming from Europe, requiring companies to measure, manage, and report on both upstream and downstream activities beyond just their direct operations. So, this is similar to the electrification of everything. My prediction is like there is this huge speed bump on our roadmap. Is this in line?
Yeah, I think as everything heats up on our planet, it's becoming more and more noticeable, and it's impacting people's daily lives, whether it's, the weather um, crisis or various, force majeure because of weather incidences. I think like I said, it's just becoming more and more noticeable where we can't ignore it. Like we
Mm-hmm.
have to take action because it's like getting out of hand. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and a 1.5 degrees Celsius warming has huge implications on the Earth itself,
Mm-hmm.
and we've already seen a lot of these impacts. And hopefully, with the right funding, right prioritization, and right focus, we can all collectively work to sort of manage and contain it. And hopefully, at some point, make it more circular and even regenerative, where we're kind of like slowing, not just slowing it down, but also decreasing it back to pre industrial levels.
Mm. Are there any relevant products or startups that are making a difference today that would be easy to grasp in this area?
Yeah, I think you're going to see a lot in sort of the renewable energy technologies, carbon capture and storage solutions, sustainable agriculture. So, agri-tech is booming, smart grid practices. Like you're seeing a lot. One of my examples that I saw again at CES earlier this year is the John Deere's autonomous tractors. I think was an interesting showcase. Another exciting startup that's in our portfolio at Axion is Symbioticware. They were honored by Foresight Canada as one of the most innovative clean tech startups. So it's pretty exciting, some
Hmm.
of the industrial work that they've been doing in a number of industries, but like mining specifically as well. So yeah.
Cool. I saw something great at New York Climate Week in September. There are companies that are now using seaweed and selling that as feed for cows. Now, cows traditionally, I think, eat a lot of corn and wheat, and that makes them really bloated and gassy, and that is why the beef industry is a huge contributor to uh,
CO2.
climate change, is because cows release a lot of methane into the air. Uh, I've seen products where they put like a little kind of flap of fabric over the cow's nose so that when they breathe out of their nose, it like absorbs the methane. But what I've learned about this seaweed company, they partnered with the dairy company Organic Valley to
Mhm.
distribute the seaweed feed to some of their farms, and seaweed lowered the amount of methane that cows were emitting. And it was like a healthier source of food. Like the meat was of a higher quality as a result. So that's like one of those innovations that it's not even the climate impact that sells the seaweed to the dairy farmer. It's the value at the end of the day. The meat is better. The cows are stronger. You get more money for each cow, right? So that's like a cool innovation that is climate friendly and has clear value propositions beyond climate friendliness for the consumers. Love to see that. So lower methane yogurt. lower methane excrete. Okay, Melly, number three, super apps beyond e-commerce.
Yeah, because the future of fintech and e-commerce is in mobile commerce, all collapsing down to a single app called super apps.
Mm-hmm.
In some of our research, we saw that 67% of US consumers say they actually want to collapse or consolidate their digital lives. And it's just all kind of getting out of hand. Like
Mm-hmm.
technology is almost too accessible. And so it's going to start to consolidate.
Yeah, like there's too many tools. I was just on a Zoom where someone was talking about their experience at South by Southwest, and they're using one tool to trade contact information with people they meet, and then another tool for their CRM and their email conversations, right? I had a decision to make this year whether I would move my newsletter to Substack, and then I was like, hey, I'd be managing Substack. What about all the years I put into MailChimp? What about my website? And I decided no more new tools. We are using MailChimp and my website to mimic whatever functionality Substack had that I wanted. So here's my prediction for 2024. Apple will be the first super app to go big in the US. So, super apps, for those of you that don't know, Melly gave a good definition. Applications that bring together a range of separate services into a single user interface. So rather than, again, using one app for one service, another app for another service, super apps bring it all into one place. For Apple, with their iPhones, Apple Pay coming built into their iPhones, they're pushing into Apple Pay Later, which is like a new high yield savings account. And I brought up in another podcast episode from last year, they're considering breaking into the health insurance market given all of the biometrics they have from the Apple Watch. What do you think? Is Apple going to be the first super app in the US?
Um, Certainly close. In I think the examples that I see in market are definitely mostly in China.
Mm-hmm. Like
Um,
WeChat.
that's right. So Tencent's WeChat, Alibaba's Alipay, like the notion of these super apps is that it starts with some sort of mobile payment or digital wallet, or they at least have that embedded in the function, the primary function. Like with WeChat, it was about chatting, so it's like
Mm-hmm.
their WhatsApp version. But they every function is like embedded in these apps where they also launch these like mini apps so the development community and the local businesses can develop for them. So it's its own like ecosystem within itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Almost like the App Store or Google Play, but all contained. Um, Another interesting product that I saw early this year, and it's kind of a hardware take on a app aggregation problem or consolidation. And the hardware device is called Rabbit R1. And it's like this interesting device that aggregates and you can it scrolls or clicks through, but it pulls all your apps off of your smartphone to sort of aggregate it. Um, so it's easier to kind of use, which is kind of an interesting take on the Super Apps Challenge.
It reminds me of websites and services I used. And actually, I think like a relevant one right now is Inode Reader, where you hook in RSS feeds from all the things you follow, so you can see it all in one place. Like that might be just an analogy that makes it easier for people to understand. I had an idea a decade ago. I'm going to give it away to anyone in the Make Sense audience that wants it. But with my grandparents, my grandmother had an iPad in her 80s. I remember being so proud that she shared a New York Times article with me in like 2011 via her iPad. I thought that was awesome. But, grandparents, they're not on all the social platforms where their kids are. And they're not thinking like, oh, I need to check in on Mellie. I'm going to go to LinkedIn. I need to check on Stuart. I need to go to Instagram. They're just like, I want an update on Mellie. Where's all of her like digital life? And so the idea would be to, you know, grandkids could feed in and uh, integrate things that they want to share with their grandparents, you know, so automatically, so a grandparent doesn't have an app icon that says Facebook, they have an app icon of Mellie's face. They enter it and they can see all of Mellie's updates from LinkedIn, from Instagram, whatever. That, in my view, would be a super app for for grandparents and a much simplified user interface for them. Yeah.
Mhm.
Cool. All right. So number two, Mellie, democratizing personalized accessibility.
Yeah, I love this one because it basically talks about how performance and diversity are not mutually exclusive. Where the future of product design and development will include this heightened attention to our senses. It'll lean into neurodiversity, inclusive design, will co create with the marginalized and become more democratized for more personalized multisensorial experiences and accessibility. It
Hmm.
basically, if you kind of break it down, it considers all of the edge cases and the outliers that based so that we don't leave anyone behind. Great examples in the past are like sidewalk curbs, like curb cutting, closed captioning on TV, and even voice assistants. It just
Mm-hmm.
makes a better product experience for everyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I talked about this also with an early Make Sense guest, Amelie Lamont, about inclusive product design. And I like to see this happening. I saw a lot of cool trends pop out for this year. But specifically, one was like embracing neurodivergence, that starting to see it as an asset, which think is pretty cool. And then the other is exactly what you said, is that inclusive product design and accessibility will become part of the design process and not just a afterthought after the product has been designed for the masses. So the prediction is inclusive design is a core strategy. In 2024, organizations will prioritize this, going beyond, ADA compliance. They'll embed accessibility into the product development process for inherent inclusivity. And there is some research out there that shows a 25% rise in customer satisfaction for companies that embrace inclusive design. So, is this a step on the roadmap to what your vision is and your prediction is?
Yeah, there's definitely real business value and real outperforming outcomes that are correlated with taking care in this area. Um,
Mm-hmm.
because you're, like I said, you're creating products and experiences that actually serve everyone in different moments, right? The CDC estimates that 61 million Americans have some sort of disability. That's like 25%
Yeah.
of the population, right? And at some point, like, however a product is intended, like, you're just not able to use it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so things like voice control, right, where you don't necessarily need to touch a screen because sometimes you're like your hands are full of bags of groceries, like you just need it to work. I think is like um, just good design and makes a product more valuable and useful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, we're rounding the corner. We brought it all the way down to our number one prediction. I'm getting ready to make sure I say it correctly. Two-faced digitopia and fluid state identity. Tell us more.
It is a bit
It
of a
sounds a little creepy, to be honest.
It's a mouthful, but I think of it as the future of identity and access management,
Hmm.
being that two-faced digitopia fluid state identity, because it addresses trust, authentication, security concerns, while balancing ease of use, fully leaning into digital twins across every industry, and combating and really weighing the risks of deep fakes, essentially.
Mm. Digital twins actually came up in my research for your health tech prediction because hospital, like doctors, medical universities are starting to create digital twins of the human body so that they can practice surgeries ahead of time, uh, and simulate the surgery ahead of time, and that is pretty cool. Let me say my prediction: increased. This is a baby step. Increased use of biometric authentication in 2024. We're just going to see a lot more apps using this advanced cybersecurity process, verifying our identity with distinctive biological traits like our fingerprint or our facial features. So, not just banks, lots of other things. Is this aligned with your prediction?
Yes, absolutely. Nobody can remember a password, right? Like, and so using biometrics is definitely makes less friction.
Solves two problems with one solution.
Right, exactly. But I think even thinking beyond that, I think about the next frontier of products using emotion AI,
Mhm.
like Spotify, where search and discovery is like the music by mood. I think we're going to be able to remix a ton of product possibilities, with this notion of digital twins, and the combating deepfakes. Likely also think about it as giving rise to a range of sort of synthetic creativity or reshaping one's perception of one's own reality, or even like giving new creative foresight, where there was none, right? Because these like filters, are making us, our likeness, seem better than we really are, you know?
Mhm.
And AI's definitely helping that. And so, when it comes to technology, we always have to weigh the risks and the second order effects, like deep fakes and all of these internet scams, etc. But I think with, great technology, it also unlocks all of these new sort of synthetic creative options that we've never seen before.
I love it. I love it. We made it through all 10 under an hour. Wow. So today's episode was dedicated to Mellie's Connected Consumer Trends Report. It's titled Trends for Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. I hope you all enjoyed both the big picture vision and the baby steps and relevant product examples so that we can understand what it looks like today. I think sometimes the big picture can scare people, right? Like, oh, the AI robot takeover. But the baby steps are really incremental improvements in solving some of the world's biggest problems. Mellie, any final takeaways?
Well, you can download the full report, and
We'll have
check.
the link.
Yep.
Yeah.
And because there's some beautiful visuals, I know we just kind of talk through a lot of it, but we definitely give you a glimpse into the future, through the full download.
Awesome. So thank you for listening to Make Sense with me, your host, Lindsay Tabus, and my guest, Mellie Chow. We hope you enjoyed our take on future consumer trends. Mellie, people can find you on LinkedIn, right?
That's right, Mellie
That's
Chow.
awesome. As always, we will have all the links and resources in the show notes, including a list of the top 10 clips from the first 30 episodes of Make Sense. So dive into the most insightful clips without having to watch a full hour episode. It's trying to save you some time so you can get up to speed. Visit lindsayt.com/. MS-top 10. Again, that link will be in the show notes. Final note, if you want to continue to be the smartest person in the world, really, make sure you're getting notified when each episode hits. On YouTube, hit that subscribe for next week's episode, and for audio only, follow wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you, Mellie, for joining me.
Thanks for having me.